meditation has never come easy to me. Contemplation maybe, but meditation, it all starts with the breath. It starts with an inhale that should go all the way down to here. Like, let's do it. Ready? And the exhale, it goes all the way up your back and out. And it should go through your nose. Now, as far as it getting down here, when I started studying the saxophone, my teacher was teaching, sorry about that, diaphragmatic breathing, you know, because that's how you kick the air onto the saxophone. And he said, you know, you just stand there in your leisure time and you just, when you inhale, just push out your stomach. And when you exhale, just push it in. And you'll be faking it, but the time will come when it's real. So this would be a great time to practice. I hope we all remember Spirit of Life. It was always, I guess, my favorite hymn. And if some of us remember the descant, I'm hoping that'll come in, okay? I will come in twice for the descant, right? Thanks for asking. I don't have a first note. It's who? C? E. For today's reading, I have a Bob Dylan poem, If Dogs Run Free. If dogs run free, then why not we across the swooping plain? My ears hear a symphony, two mules, train and rain. The best is always yet to come. That's how they explain to me. Just do your thing and you'll be king if dogs run free. If dogs run free, why not me across the swamps of time? My mind weaves a symphony, a tapestry of rhyme. O winds that rush my tale to thee, so it may flow and be. To each his own, it's all unknown if dogs run free. If dogs run free, then what must be, and that is all. True love can make a blade of grass stand up straight and tall. In harmony with the cosmic sea, true love needs no company. It can cure the soul. It can make it whole if dogs run free. When Bob Dylan wrote that, he had just gone through one of his radical changes. I was a change or two behind him, so I wasn't really sure I agreed with that message. But how could you not love the image of running with dogs through the swamps of time? To be honest, I can't say I agree with everything Bob Dylan writes now. But whatever he writes, he always tries to write the truth. One time on her radio show, Fresh Air, Sherry Gross was interviewing a poet. I don't know who it was, but they had been making their living writing advertising copy. And she asked him if he thought that writing ads contributed to his poetry writing. And he said, nah. When he was writing poetry, he was seeking a word that says exactly what he meant. But when he was writing an ad, he was choosing words that had as little meaning as possible. I know we laugh, but... Now, my favorite chalice lighting words in our hymnal are in part, we light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. Truth and meaning might well be essential to sacred text, which is the theme of this month, as well as the celebration of life shared. For Bob Dylan and that poet on Fresh Air, truth and meaning were essential to the text they endeavored to create. Dylan seems to me to have been addressing his followers, or fans as we were known, who seemed to him to be taking liberties with their newfound freedom. He was expressing a truth that had meaning for him and sharing it in the hope that it would have meaning for those who heard him. That's what artists try to do. Otherwise, they're craftspeople. And I'm not knocking craftspeople here. My grandfather was a master craftsman from the old country, for whom I have always had enormous love and respect. But I am pointing out that although they are not mutually exclusive, they are not the same. The other mention element mentioned in the chalice lighting piece is that celebration of a shared life. When I was working on my bachelor's degree, I took a course called The Anthropology of Art and Aesthetics. But actually, as we studied the place of art in various cultures, one of the assignments involved a group of us exploring Hopi solstice traditions. We chose this in part because it was late November and the solstice was approaching. Now, we didn't have a kiva, but we spent the remaining class time gathered together, sharing needed materials, making prayer sticks, and learning a chant or two. I remember a snowy evening when one of our car batteries had died in the parking lot. And though we certainly were not all needed to jumpstart that car, we all did gather there in the cold and snowy parking lot together. So I guess from that and what I learned in class, I discovered that what meant the most to me was that art is an essential part of holding a community together. And this was reinforced a few months later when I was joining into the community that raised me, and when we began to sing together, the sound was so beautiful, I got teary. So, artists search for truth and meaning to use in their art, but they're not alone. We know religious writers have and continue to write sacred text. In ancient times, almost all writing was sacred text, searching for and imparting truth and meaning. Text itself was signified, was thought by these people to signify the sacred. When Moses came down from the mountain, he didn't just talk about it, he brought down engraved tablets. It was text. In medieval Europe, reading and writing were pretty much the exclusive domain of the clergy. They were the ones who judged what was true and what was not, and it would not go well for those with whom they disagreed. It was not a good idea in the eyes of the church then to translate the Gospels into the language of commoners. Commoners' interpretations might not agree with those of the clergy. It seems a lot of Islam suffers under a similar oppression to this day. Speaking of this day, sacred text now I think, is being written by scientists. And of course, there are many forces who disagree with the truth that they uncover. Think about it. Isn't the origin of the species a good example? We could call it an origin myth, right? It explains where we come from, how we got here, doesn't it? And it is regarded as heretical to many religious readers. Now, Einstein's On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies, which I also haven't read. It built on the work of another sacred writer, Marie Curie, who provided, among other things, when you think about it, they provided a cancer treatment. That has meaning to anyone who's had it. Stephen Hawking was another sacred writer. A Brief History of Time goes far toward explaining the origin of the cosmos. And he has recently been interred in Westminster Abbey. So apparently the Church of England agrees on that. One thing that we learn from those authors is that the human understanding of truth is always changing. It builds on tradition. It builds on what has been discovered. And then it builds anew with each new discovery. Now, there's a reason, I'm going to embarrass you. There's a reason Byron and I were playing the blues for you today. Now, Byron can play in a lot of different genres. But one time I was telling somebody that, and although he's really too polite to do this often, he interrupted me. It was important. He said that that was true, but it's the blues that means the most to him. Now, I can't claim to be the musician he is, but if I'm going to play something, I want to play it with Byron, and I want it to be the blues. It speaks to us. One time, somebody asked Willie Dixon, the writer of Dead Presidents, what the blues was. And he replied unequivocally, "The blues is the truth, and that's why."